Happy New Year, PPA. I hope everyone is enjoying the new gym as much as I am. I know the kids are super excited about it, but at first glance it can be a little bit intimidating. Lots of moving parts. While most of this equipment serves the same function, it definitely looks a little bit different and it might be a little confusing and overwhelming initially. So today what we're going to do is we're going to take a little tour through the new racks, through the new equipment, give you some ideas on how to adjust things, what the equipment is for, and kind of just what a normal setup looks like. Let's start with the trolleys up here on the right. So this is the piece of the equipment that's probably the most confusing for the majority of users. And while it looks like there's a lot going on, it's really not too crazy once we break it down. So first thing you're going to want to do if you're trying to adjust the trolley for the pulley and the cable machine is remove the pins. These red pins are a little bit overkill in my opinion. You don't necessarily need these in there unless you're using a ton of weight on the cable machine, which the majority of the users are not going to have to worry about. This cable machine does go up to 250 pounds of true weight, so unless you're doing something like a really heavy row or maybe some kind of a cable assisted pull-up, probably not going to need to use that much weight, so keep that in mind. Now, once we've got the pins out, there is a dial on the back side, which I'll show you in a second. All you need to do is loosen that by turning it to the left. Once it's slightly loosened, you're going to pull out, and now you can adjust the trolley to whatever height you need. Once you found where you want it, you're just going to retighten that back pin, and boom, ready to go. So here's the pin itself. If you can see a little bit of the thread, then you should be good to adjust it. You don't need to clamp it down all the way, but you should have it, majority of the thread should be within the rack. As far as loosening and adjusting, the more you unscrew it, the less likely you are to catch when moving the trolley itself. Now, one thing to note is the pinholes that we discussed earlier are only going to align when this back pin is not in a hole. So if I'm using a ton of weight and I want to buckle this thing down, I'm gonna get the pins in there like so. Make sure they're locked from the other side. And then I can tighten back here just to stabilize that trolley a little bit more. Now, again, I don't think that's necessary for most people, for most uses, but if you really want to make sure this thing's not going anywhere, these pins will do the trick. A couple of things that I want to talk about with the J-hooks, the safeties, and the cable functional trainer system itself. Obviously, if we want to adjust the trolley, we have to make sure that the J-hook and safety is out of the way, because otherwise I can only go to the point where that J-hook sits, right? So if I want to go for maybe a low row or a movement where I'm anchoring low, we need to take off the J-hook, and I like to actually usually just set those in the bottom of the rack itself. Good place to store it. Take off the safety, turn and pull that out. Now, I can bring this all the way down if I want to be doing a low movement. Another thing that I want to mention is this weight stack is a true one-to-one weight stack. So what that means, if I do 1 foot of range of motion, this weight stack is going to move 1 foot on the rails. So that's great for having a high weight capacity. Now, if you're doing a movement with a very large range of motion, you're gonna find that you're gonna hit the top of these poles. So starting close to the actual trolley is a good idea for that. And then also knowing that at some gyms you might see a cable machine that's got 40 pounds listed on the cable stack. If it's a 2-to-1 pulley, you're only actually moving 20 pounds, okay? So the benefit of that is you get twice the range of motion. You row 12 inches, the plates only rise 6 inches. right? But you're not going to be moving as much weight. So there's upsides and downsides to both types of cable machines. This one is a 1-to-1, so if you're doing something with a lot of range of motion, you might be better off using the older functional trainers that we still have on both ends of the gym. The other thing that's worth noting is that when the pin is disengaged, we've got 10 pounds on there, and there was no hole to put the pin in. So what I like to do is just kind of stick it in the side here. That way I can still row. This thing's not going to be flying all over the place. We don't want it getting stuck between the plates, anything like that. So if you're doing 10 pounds, just kind of stick this in the rack itself. Anything more than that, you're just going to want to select the weight that you want to use. So now that we're a little bit more familiar with the cable machine, the trolley, safeties, J-hooks, all that, I just want to give you guys kind of the standard setup that we're looking for. If we keep things fairly consistent, it's going to be easy for other members to kind of know where they're starting at. So when I'm done using the cable machine, I've been trying to hold this all the way back up to the top setting. I like to put the J-hook around 20-ish, between 20 and 21 is usually where I go. And then the safeties, I like to keep between 11 and 12. That way, when members walk in, cable machine, everything tends to have kind of a standard setting. It's just a little bit easier to navigate. As far as some of the other features of the rack, you can use any cable attachment on this piece, obviously. We've got 2.5 pound plates up at the top on this weight storage. On the other side, I just like to keep the clips themselves because next to that, we've got our vertical barbell holders. Each rack should have 2 barbells starting in the rack, so you've got everything you need in one spot. You can just place those back when you're done, that's awesome. And then on the weight storage on the side, we've got 5-pound iron. Some racks have 10-pound iron, not all of them. And we've got 10-pound bumper, 25-pound bumper, and 45-pound bumper. Trying to keep 2 to 3 of each on each rack. That way you've got all the weight that you need. And then we are trying to keep one of each band color. On the back, there's just a carabiner attached to the top. Obviously the adjustable bench in each rack as well. And then each rack has a dual landmine attachment. Each rack has a dual landmine, which means you can have a landmine or barbell on each side. So the way this works, if you've never used one before, is you're just going to slide the barbell into that landmine attachment. And from here, there's a ton of movements that you can do. You can do row variations, you can do press variations, you can do rotational movements. Just adds a little bit of stability while giving you a lot more options with things you can do. I really like landmine single leg RDLs, but really, if you're looking for options, quick Google search, landmine movements will show you more movements than you know what to do with. Yeah, that's about all we got. I just want to make sure we keep all this equipment in really good shape. Try to keep it clean, try to keep the weights where they're supposed to go. That way everyone has what they need and can do what they want to do. Thanks.